Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Ever since I've started posting the 9950X3D videos, I've seen a lot of comments asking for a settings video. And although these settings may not exactly resemble what I was running in those videos, because different airplanes, you can push some things, you'll have to back off some things if you fly airliners. So in today's video, I'm going to talk through my settings, my approach of setting up Microsoft Flight Sim 2024. I'll go over pretty much everything, not just MSFS settings, but what am I using around MSFS to get things as smooth as possible. So we are right here sitting at Chicago, and by the way, I'm not using any frame gen for this video. So if you want to guess what the FPS is going to be with frame gen, I would say remove 10 FPS and then multiply that by 2. So let's say I'm getting 68 FPS right now. I would remove 10 FPS, make it 58, and then multiply that by 2. I'm not going to do the math here. But anyway, so right now we are clocking somewhere around 70, 65, 70, 80, sometimes 80, depending on where you look. If you look down, you're going to get like 100 plus FPS, while if you're actually looking up, then you'll get lower FPS. But yeah, depending on where you look, I'm getting somewhere above 60 FPS for sure, right? So that's just another thing to be careful about when you're watching these settings videos from my channel or from other channel. If someone is not moving around the camera and showing you the FPS in a still position, you remember that the FPS can vary as much as 30, 40 FPS depending on where you're looking at. So that's one of the first things here. And oh, by the way, I would highly recommend you guys to do your own testing with your hardware, because even if you have the same hardware, every hardware, every BIOS, like everything is different, right? I would say take this with a grain of salt. Do your own testing. Make sure that you are comparing the settings. Treat this as just a guide or an entertainment video more than anything else. So anyway, let me not waste any more of. By the way, if you're into flight sim content, if you're into aviation, please make sure you leave a like on the video and also subscribe to the channel. It really helps the channel a lot more than you think, and I would highly appreciate you guys helping me out with those couple of clicks. Anyway, so now I'll keep my view the same here, just because we are going to get into the settings menu and I don't want to change the reference for you guys. So here we are doing somewhere around 68, 69 FPS or whatever. Okay, so general comments, like I said before, I'm not using frame gen here. We are at Chicago. We are running well, I'll tell you the TLOD and all that later, but usually I'll tell you this. So usually I do not run the native frame gen that's in the sim. I try to generate frames through lossless scaling, which is an external, I think it's $5 or $10, something like that. But I highly recommend getting lossless scaling, because I have seen that when I'm using native frame gen, I get insane amount of stutters as soon as I land. Yes, even with this hardware, you are not safe from stutters. You will still get stutters if you're using the wrong combination of add-ons. So that's one thing. Now again, you guys may not, but I'm just saying that if you're getting stutters and if you have the default frame gen on, I would say try to disable it. Try to use lossless scaling and see if that goes away. Because for me, lossless scaling works flawlessly, but yeah, not so much. I couldn't say that for the default frame gen. And if I talk about lossless scaling settings, let me go over that first, because that's an important part of this settings video and we can knock that out real quick. So I'm running LSF G3.0 fixed, multiplier of 2. Scaling type, I'm not running anything. Sometimes I run LS1 or FSR, but I've seen that it makes everything a little bit blurry, so I don't use that. VSync is on. I still need to test VSync, but why I turned this on is because Sometimes my frames would go even more than 144 with lossless scaling. Like you see here, if it's doing 65 here, that means in the sky when I've already taken off, it's definitely going to exceed 144. And what VSync will do is it'll cap my frames at 144, not allow me to go beyond that 144 frames. But I did enable G-Sync yesterday on my monitor, so maybe I need to test the G-Sync support today on this. I'll see what. But without G-Sync, when I had fixed 144 hertz refresh rate, I was using VSync, and you can try it out yourself. Capture API DXGI, I read a little bit, and it seems like DXGI is the way to go here. Don't ask me why, but Reddit says that DXGI is the way to go. WGC has, I think it causes some lag and it's not the most efficient. I don't know the details about it, but you know, it only works with, I think it only works well with Windows 11 with that 24H2 update, something like that. I don't know. But DXGI works fine and I haven't changed it. Q target is set to 2. This, I think this just, you can read the description. It's just, you know, it keeps one frame and latency, blah blah blah, whatever. One works fine, don't need to go to 2. Everything else is fine here. Preferred GPU, I didn't leave it on auto because my CPU also has a AMD graphics card, which I don't want it to use, so I've forced it to use the 4080. And obviously I'm doing the scaling on my main monitor, which is a 2K monitor, and leaving the 1080p monitor alone. And then I have multi-display mode enabled because I have dual monitors set up. So this is basically my lossless scaling settings. And like I said before, if I use lossless scaling, you need to remove like 5 to 10 FPS from the base and then multiply it by 2 or 3 depending on whatever factor you use. If you use 3, then you have to reduce the base frames even more, because then you are using more of the GPU, so you're getting less base frames, but then you're multiplying it by 3, so overall you'll get more frames. That's just a sweet spot. I feel like 2, max 3 is just good enough. Don't go to 4. That will consume so much GPU usage or whatever you call it, that you're going to drop your base frames a lot, and then you will see a lot of stutter happening. Anyway, so now we have changed our view, so the FPS has changed. So our average FPS now is somewhere around 68. So now that the lossless scaling settings are done, let's go over our main settings here. Quickly going over the online settings. Photogrammetry is on, live weather is on. I did try photogrammetry off, doesn't look that good. We still have problems with photogrammetry on MSFS 2024. I think everyone knows that by now, don't need to repeat it. They're fixing it slowly. I've had less problems in these last couple of weeks. Anyway, everything else is just as is. My rolling cache, this is wrong. This is not what my rolling cache usually is. I usually keep it at like 250 GB. And that's just because I have space. I don't know what the impact is of rolling cache on my FPS, but I would assume that the more data it downloads, the less stutter it will cause. Again, I'm not claiming that. I'm just assuming that if it's pre-downloading stuff, it should not take, that much of my internet to download it again or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, I leave this to 250, bandwidth unlimited. So online is done. What else do we have here? Yeah, I think we can go to the main graphics settings. So I'm using full screen display mode. I don't have the HDR monitor, so that is off. Full screen resolution is 2K 25601440. Like, I haven't changed my monitor in like 5 years now, I think. Render scaling is set to 100. DLSS frame gen, like I said, I don't use the native frame gen because it causes a ton of stutters. At random times in the flight, you'll just see that it'll start stuttering all over the place. If that's happening, if you're using DLSS frame gen, try to disable it, try to use lossless scaling, see if it goes away. Fidelity, sharpening, you can use this if you're using DLSS, but since I'm using TAA, I like to just keep it at 0 because TAA, another thing, why do I run TAA instead of DLSS? Well, so let's see. So DLSS, if I put it on quality, what were we on? We were on like 68 FPS. It's gonna give me more performance. You see that? It's gonna give me like 10 FPS more, close to 10 FPS more. But I just don't like the way everything gets a little bit blurry. And also, you'll see that when I'm cycling through stuff, you'll see that things get blurry. You see that? And maybe for some people it's not a problem, but at least when my PFDs and NDs get blurry, that's when I just don't like it. And yeah, but I'm showing you the difference. If you run DLSS, you're going to get roughly 8 to 10 frames more than running TAA. So that's the difference between the two. Again, I'm keeping the same view so that you guys can see the difference right in front of you. So quality balanced, if you run balanced, what were we on? Like 70, yeah. So you get a couple of more frames if you run balanced, but then if you look at the cockpit, you'll see that the blurriness is now more. And some of it goes away if you're running this sharpening. But there again, when things are moving, it just still looks blurry. But anyway, if you guys need some more FPS, maybe like 10 more FPS, sure, use DLSS if you have weaker hardware. I am going to keep it on TAA unless my frames drop below 60 when I'm on the ground. If I'm below 60 on the ground at some airport, I'm going to turn on DLSS quality, and that does it for me. Hope that helps you guys. VSync is off because I'm using external program, like I said, lossless scaling to control that if I want VSync, if I don't want VSync, and if my frames are staying below 144, then I just disable it through lossless. Reflex low latency is on plus boost because why not? Dynamic settings is off. Now this has been a little sketchy for me. The only reason I've really turned it off is because I don't know what it's doing. I don't completely understand what it's doing. Is it just messing with my TLOD? It was causing me stutters on release. Now I don't have stutters, but I just still don't understand completely how this settings, how this dynamic settings function is working. Anyway, let's move on. So terrain level of detail is 250. Off-screen terrain pre-caching is ultra. This means, by the way, even if you have a weaker system, just turn the off-screen terrain pre-caching to ultra. That really helps. Terrain level detail is 250. Okay, this is the most controversial setting. So you'll see that in the videos that I posted before, I was running TLOD of 400. And I'm sorry if I stretch this topic a little bit, but this is an important one, even for people with really strong CPUs. Okay, so terrain level of detail of 250 seems like the sweet spot for me right now. And it is not because my CPU is not capable of doing LOD of 400. My CPU can definitely pull off TLOD of 400 at 2K. The problem is my GPU. My GPU just doesn't have enough VRAM to pull this off. So you'll see that if I push it to 400, right? And if I resume, you'll see that I'm starting to really push my VRAM. So the GPU mem part here, it has gone up to 12.32, which is really close, very close to the available memory of 14.3, right? I haven't lost that much on my frames. I'm still able to get more than 60 FPS, right? So if I'm running TLOD of 400, I can still live with it. But the problem is MSFS 2024 right now has a VRAM leak issue, which doesn't help this condition a whole lot, because if I'm starting at 12 point something, I am going to end up at close to 14, and then it's going to start stuttering. So even if you have the most powerful system or one of the most powerful systems, MSFS 2024 just has its ways of bringing it down to the knees. But anyway, so that's why I'm not able to run TLOD of 400 consistently. Now, if I'm flying GA, right, I would run TLOD 400 all day. Like you saw in my Cessna 172 video, which is like one of the most beautiful videos I've ever made. So check that out if you haven't. But yeah, 400 looks amazing, and I can run 400, but only if I'm flying GA. If I'm flying a Phoenix and if I'm doing a long haul, something like that, I just cannot run 400 because not that I'm CPU limited, but I am actually GPU VRAM limited, because TLOD, as much as it is a CPU setting, like CPU related setting, it also consumes your VRAM quite a bit. So hope that was enough explanation about that. So yeah, even if you have a strong CPU, just watch out on that VRAM when you're pushing the TLOD to your to the max. Another one, displacement mapping. Now, do your own testing, but remember our reference FPS here. We were at somewhere around 68, 69 FPS in this view. If I turn on displacement mapping, that's going to take my FPS down to 60. So it took close to 8 to 10 FPS away from us, right? So I don't know what's going on, but displacement mapping affects the frames quite a bit. So I just leave it off. If I'm flying GA, where my base frames are already very high, then I would turn it on and it won't be a problem. Let's say if I'm flying a Comanche or a 172 or something like that in a very nice dense autogen area, I would leave this to on. But otherwise, just turn it off. Buildings high, trees high, plants, rocks, grass, medium, high. Not gonna explain all of them. You've seen this in my previous video. I've compared each and every setting and showed you how it looks visually versus how it performs, what's the frame difference, things like that. So you can, I'll leave that in the description, or you'll see the pop-up somewhere. You can check out that video. I have all of that covered. Objects level of detail is set to 200 because I don't like popping the objects popping up as I'm landing. So I just leave it to 200. I think if you, let me see. I haven't really tested this because this one I just like it being 200. Yeah, even with 100, you don't see a real FPS gain. And I have this tested on that other video that I'm talking about. So I'm pretty sure I have this tested there. So if you want to check it out, you can check out that video. But anyway, 200 is fine. Volumetric clouds, ultra, I don't like how it looks. Anything below ultra. High just starts looking like a potato. So ultra it is for this. Texture res high. Very important one. Right now, MSFS 2024, unless you have a 5090, just don't run this on high. Even if you have 24 GB VRAM, you're better off saving that VRAM. Just change this to high. Do not run ultra. It's not worth it because of the VRAM leak and things like that. It just consumes so much VRAM, and then you'll start getting stutters. The same thing here, right? I'm already at 11.1, 11.4 GB VRAM. If I turn this to ultra, texture res to ultra, it's going to really push my VRAM, and I'll get into trouble on landing. So most of the people who are having landing stutters, I would say, I think this video, hopefully it helps you guys to mitigate that. One of the main things to reduce would be terrain level of detail, texture resolution to high or even medium if you have a really low end system. Turn off displacement mapping. Like you saw, it takes away quite a bit of frames from your base frames. So if you do all of that, I think that should help you guys quite a bit. Anisotropic filtering 16x. I don't like jaggy taxi lines, so that's set to as high as it could. Water waves, honestly, you can turn this to medium, and that will help a little bit since Chicago has water around maybe, but it's not actually rendering, so you can't really see a difference. But yeah, maybe a frame or so of difference, and maybe a little bit more over water. So yeah, leave it to medium. It doesn't look that bad even at medium. In fact, actually, maybe it looks even better at medium. I've compared this setting in that video as well. Ray trace shadows on because off looks terrible. Shadow maps and terrain shadows, I've reduced them quite a bit actually. You can leave it to 2048 if you have a very strong GPU. But since I'm on a 4080, I've reduced it to 768 and 256. It doesn't look, honestly, it doesn't look any different than how it looks at 2048, but it'll save you some frames there. So our reference was 70 FPS now. So let's see if you turn them both to 2K, how much do we lose? Yeah. So you went down by what, like 7, 8, 7, 6, 7, 8 FPS, right? So why not just get that much FPS back and, you know, fly with some nice smoothness? Okay, so 768 and 256 works great for me. Don't need anything more than that. And I hope this video is helping out, because this video, like I was going to, maybe I'll still name it as is this a joke? Because like if I write down my hardware on the video title, nobody's gonna watch it, because like, okay, this guy has a 9950 X3D and a 4080. Like, why would I watch a settings video from this guy? He's gonna probably have everything turned up to ultra. But unfortunately, that's not the case, because you can still optimize even at this, because I really like having frames above 60. Anything base frames below 60 is just not, you know, it just doesn't feel smooth. And I know some people will understand, some will be like, yeah, this eyes cannot see more than 30 FPS and all that. I don't believe in that. I think 60 FPS and 100 FPS just looks different. Like I cannot explain. Or maybe it's my monitor, who knows. I just like having my frames above 60 FPS, base 60 FPS consistently, and then I multiply that by 2. That's a bonus, that's a different thing. But if your base is terrible, then lossless scaling is not going to save you. Okay, that's another tip that I'll give you. That if you're thinking that I'm going to get 60 FPS with lossless scaling, I'll tell you it's not going to look good, or it's not going to feel good, because your base frames are so low, below 30 FPS, that you're not able to, like lossless scaling cannot cover up for that, cannot cover up for base stutters. So yeah, take care of that. Apart from that, contact shadows, windshield effects, and ambient occlusion is high. This one you can set it to ultra actually. It doesn't cause a whole lot of performance difference. Yeah, you see that? You're almost at 70 still. And I always like AO in games. So you can keep that to ultra. And then cube map reflections 256. Ray matched is ultra because, you know, why not? That's one of the, you know, main things about MSFS 2024 that really makes it look amazing is ray matched reflections. So I always keep it at ultra. Light shafts also at ultra, because that really adds to the environment, flying environment. So I don't want to compromise on that one. Depth of field is ultra as well, because when I'm using that blurry effect, whatever it's called, with the camera function, I want that effect to be looking really nice for my landing videos. Motion blur is off, not needed. Cockpit glass, cockpit refresh rate is set to low. Don't need to be anything more than that. Character quality set to low. Don't need anything more than that. Traffic is off. Air traffic is, well, I can turn this off as well. Road traffic is high. Sea traffic is medium. Fauna is off. So I think if you turn off road traffic, you'll gain some performance. I'm not sure how much on this new CPU. Actually, no, not really. Okay. Maybe it's not even rendering road traffic, and that's why I can't really tell. But yeah, test this out. I think I've tested it with my old CPU at least. I like to keep it high because it really looks nice when you're coming in for a landing and you see some cars driving on the road and trucks driving on the road and whatnot. It just looks alive. And because I can do it with my CPU, I just keep it at high. So anyway, that's the whole settings, MSFS settings menu. And that's exactly what I'm running right now with Phoenix. Now, the only change that I would make if I'm flying general aviation is I would push the TLOD to 400, and depending on how much frames I'm getting and like what kind of area I'm flying in, I would turn on displacement mapping, just so that you have some terrain vector data going on there. So that's all about my MSFS settings. Now, one thing I would like to point out is you should make sure that in your Nvidia app, you are once you go to MSFS 2024, go down here and make sure that the power management mode is set to prefer maximum performance. I just turned on G-Syncs. That's why you see that my monitor is G-Sync compatible now. Actually, I have FreeSync, not G-Syncs, but when you have FreeSync, it kind of works with both AMD and Nvidia GPUs. That's what I've read. I'm still doing my research on this, and I'll let you know if either one of these are good for 2024. So far, I'm seeing that with G-Sync turned on, I get a lot better smoothness because the monitor refresh rate is changing with my frames. So that's that. And then for DLSS override, I would change this to latest for everyone who's running DLSS. I run it sometimes when I run beyond ATC and when I run a lot of traffic. That's when I really have to use DLSS. So like you saw, right? 10 frames gain, why not? When I'm running traffic, I lose 10 frames. So I can gain 10 frames with DLSS. So anyway, that's what my overall settings look like on the Nvidia app. It's going to give you some optimized recommended settings as well, but I don't use that. I'm tired of talking. Anyway, so I'm gonna fly from Chicago, and I think I'm flying to LAX today, and it's getting real late in the evening right now. So I'm gonna file a flight plan, turn on beyond ATC, and then fly to LAX. That's pretty much all I had to cover for this video. If I missed something, please let me know, and I would gladly either reply to your comment, or if it deserves to be a separate video by itself, I would make a new video for it. I'm going to keep making videos on MSFS 2024 now that it's a lot more stable. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next 2024 video. I've also bought Explain 12, so I fly Explain 12 occasionally when I'm not on 2024, just to get some Boeing some Boeing fun, because there's no Boeing fun available in this sim right now. But anyway, enough rambling. I think that's it for this video. I will see you guys on the next video, whatever that is going to be about. I don't know. If you guys want me to make videos on specific topics, please let me know in the comment section down below, and I basically reply to all comments. So yeah, I'll definitely see yours and make a video about it. So thanks a lot for watching. Again, please make sure you like and subscribe. It helps the channel more than you think. Yeah, make sure you do that before you leave, and I will see you guys on the next one.